I'm only taking one step at a time towards healing myself. I had to get out, I found a way out. No more living in pain or misery. It's all about protecting my energy. Keep the negative away from me, because I am just keeping my peace. Cut off everything that no longer was serving me, and I chose to start loving myself. I walk in my purpose, no looking back, I'm only going with it. B.O. standing there, a better version of me. I must say that I'm proud of me. It's not about how you feel, I'm living proof that God is real. So let me show you how to heal. Damn it, I'm wearing it well, cause I came a long way. My journey isn't yet complete, that's what it look like to heal. Damn it, I'm wearing it well, I'm proud of myself. It's nothing to it, you can do it, all you gotta do is just fight through it. Create a soul, create a soul, create a soul. Just fight through it. Create a soul, create a soul, create a soul, create a soul, yeah, yeah.
Welcome to Pain to Purpose podcast, where we have open discussions to heal together as a community. We are on episode 14, and our series is Authors for this month. And today our special guest is Miss Angela Ray, the author and actress. Welcome, Miss Angela Ray.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on to the show. I really appreciate it. I know that you are very busy, so I do not take this for granted at all. Thank you. Can you give us a little information about you?
Sure. I am originally from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Shout out to all of my fellow natives out there who are doing some amazing work in entertainment, by the way. So I'm going to send you all on a Google search in case you all don't know any of these names. I know probably people are familiar with J. Cole, the rapper. He is from Fayetteville, but also Ryan Tyree Henry, Natasha A. Williams, Tangi Ambrose. So many people doing great things in entertainment from Fayetteville. So shout out to my fellow Fayetteville natives. In addition to being from Fayetteville, I am a graduate of the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Very proud of my Tar Heels. And as you mentioned, I'm an actress and an author. And I have found those worlds colliding with my book, Megastar, Student Leadership.
That's amazing. And so, what made you get into writing? Like, what started this? Did you
Oh,
start writing
so
when you were younger, when you were like a kid?
I did. So here's how I got started writing. I always shout this young lady out, one of my classmates, and I inboxed her to tell her this one day, but I don't think she understood the magnitude. But I was in seventh grade in language arts class, and we were studying poetry. And one of my classmates, Amy Pendergrass, she looks over at me. She's like, "Can you write a poem?" And I've never written a poem, but I don't back down from a challenge. So I was like, "Yeah, I can write a poem." She's like, "Okay, we'll write a poem about a guy and having a crush." So I said, okay. So I wrote this poem called I've Got a Crush on You. I think the first line was like, as I was walking down the hall, your eyes met mine. A crush came upon me because you were so fine. Now, that is not great poetry, but in seventh grade, I think it was pretty good. And so there was something about creating that just, kind of resonated with me. So even though I had never written a poem, but I wrote that one, I started using poetry as a way to express myself. So for the next couple of years, I was writing poetry. When I went to college, even though my degree is in communications and film, I still studied poetry, entered contests, and every now and then, if you're lucky, you can catch me like doing a little something, something on the open mic or some spoken word. And oftentimes in my speaking engagements, I incorporate poetry, but those are my writing roots. While I enjoyed English, love writing papers, getting into the creative part, it all started with poetry.
Okay. I love it. I love it. And I like the poetry. I think you
That
do.
really bad poem from seventh grade. I've got a crush on you. It's
I don't
hilarious.
think it was bad. I like it. I like it.
And
Okay.
honestly, I probably, because I'm Angela Ray, I probably the original note somewhere. I remember it once. Let's say it like this. After college, I still had it, but yeah, I don't know if I could put my hands on it in the next hour. But I kept a lot of my original writings, like the handwritten cursive, for a long time.
Okay. That's amazing. You have to find that one and frame it. That was the first one. That was the baby. So you
That was the baby. It gave birth to everything else.
you have to hold on to that one.
Hmm.
So tell us about the book, this latest book that you wrote.
So, Megastar student leadership, and I'm gonna back up just a bit because we talked
Okay.
about poetry, and I know this podcast is all about pain to purpose, and so my very first book was a book of poetry, and I will say one of the poems that I wrote in there um, was called "Fallen Hero," and just thinking about dealing with pain. Oftentimes, I would write poetry about something that was going on, but I had a specific heartbreak, if you will, right out of college. And that was when the very first church that I chose for myself, as a child, if you're going to church, if you're going to a place of worship, you're going where your mom and daddy or your grandma or your big mama or whomever, you're going where they take you. But this was the first time I had chosen a church for myself. And I had been attending, I've been a member of this church, serving for maybe a couple of years. And unfortunately, the pastor had an affair with one of the members. And it was something that really tore the church apart. And I wrote this poem out of the pain that I was feeling called A Fallen Hero. And
Yeah.
while I didn't share it publicly, definitely didn't share it in the church, it was really more cathartic for me. I shared it with some of my fellow members. And everybody was like, "You captured exactly how I was feeling about this." And so for me, writing specifically poetry has been a way to take some of the pain that I've had and move it into purpose. Now, let's get to the book at hand, Megastar Student Leadership. I've spent a lot of time speaking to high school and college students throughout my career, along with being an actress, and which is amazing. There are times I might have a speaking engagement in the morning, and then that evening I'm running trying to get backstage because I'm going on to do a play. So but in thinking about what I had to share with students, what lessons could I share with them? I really thought about a lot of the lessons that I learned as an actress. And I know people come into the industry in so many different ways, whether they're influencers, whether they start in theater and go into film and television, or whether they have a look. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, you should be in front of the camera. They come into the industry in so many different ways. But for me, I took a more traditional route. I studied acting in college and started in the theater and eventually found my way into film and television. And in that journey, I found that there were things that I was learning as an actress, these lessons, if you will, that I knew were beneficial to students. And so, for example, what I did was I call these real world lessons. And so my lessons are real world, REEL, play on the film reel. And then I adapt those lessons for the REAL, real world of student leaders. And so one of those lessons, for example, is classes are classic. I don't care what you're planning to do, whether you're going straight to college, a community college after high school, whether you're going into the military, even if you're going straight into the workforce, you're going to have to continue to probably take some kind of classes, whether that's a workshop or a certification for what you're doing in the military, what you're doing on the job. And of course, if you're going to college, it's classes. That's where a lot of the learning happens. And so for me as an actress, I found myself continually taking classes that even though I studied acting in college, I was taking acting classes. I work with acting coaches. I still work with acting coaches. And so that is really what the book is about. Lessons that I have learned and that's really showing young students how they can take that lesson and really apply that as a student leader.
That's great. I think that's so amazing that you're taking time to help educate the youth and other people so that they can be able to take on to this. And a lot of people, I call it gatekeepers. They don't want to share with you how they made it. So thank you so much for being open and transparent and sharing your story to help other people, help our community. So,
I consider it a part of my giving back. I love students. I understand that they are the future, and it's good to be able to talk to them and to be able to share my journey. My journey may be different from theirs, but yes, being able to just share what I've learned is I just love giving back in that way.
so can you give us two things that was really hard for you when you first started acting? Two things that you maybe struggled with.
Oh wow. Two things that I struggled with when I first started. Oh, um, hmm. Okay. So one thing was really fitting into the world of entertainment as a dark-skinned African American woman. And let me tell you specifically what I mean. Number one, uh, not all the time on a film and television set, but definitely in some of maybe the smaller projects, corporate videos, training videos, things like that. Oftentimes I would get on set and the makeup artist would not have foundation for me. And I quickly, yeah, I know, right? So I quickly learned that I had to bring my own makeup. That was number one. And then number two, they didn't always understand what to do with my hair because I remember the one of the very first major projects, and I say major, like not independent, not short film, there were some people on this project. And I remember I was supposed to be like a patient in an insane asylum. And so the person doing hair, she plaited my hair, so I'm looking, like I blend into that environment. But then after plaiting my hair, before I knew it, she had a comb. She was teasing my plaits. And you and I both know for our hair texture, we don't tease our hair, and definitely not when it's plaited. So when I left set and I got home and I took down my hair, it just broke off in my hands.
No.
So dealing with hair and makeup very early on, that was very hard. I mean, I really got tired of showing up to set and someone not having makeup for me. Like if you're a professional, you have all the way to the lightest of light all the way to, charcoal, midnight. But
Right.
oftentimes they didn't. So I don't, generally speaking, I have not had those issues in a long, long time. But when I first got started, that was one of the hardest. It was all, honestly, I think at some point I probably started to internalize it like, well, am I too dark? Was that why they don't have, like, this makes no sense. So that was one thing. And
So
I
can
think
I
that's
ask you, so did
sure.
you start bringing your own makeup?
I'm sorry,
And
say that again.
did you just start taking your own
I
makeup
did. I said,
that
"At
with
least my
you?
foundation." I started bringing my own foundation because what I
Really?
wasn't gonna do was look crazy because they were
Right.
trying to figure it out, and then most of the time, honestly, I had at least powder in my purse. So I had powder, but, like, when you're on set, they're not just putting powder on your face, and so eventually I started bringing my own, and, after a while, I never had to do that again. So that was hard when I first started. And I think the other thing was really being able to discern the projects that were legit because there are so, I mean, even now, there are so many people who are saying, I'm about to do this, or I'll give you an example. I was at maybe was this, I think this was pre-COVID. I was at some kind of expo, And you're meeting people, you're exchanging business cards. And so someone told me they were a director and a producer. So I was like, oh, okay. So I asked, so what projects have you done? Well, I haven't done anything yet. I get it. We all have to start somewhere, but I think it's a bit much to start using those titles when you've not done anything. Even if they just said, you know what, I got a small project, I got it, and I'm working on some other things, great. But I literally was meeting people who were saying they were directors and producers who had done nothing. So going back to the beginning of my career, I remember I was in an audition and the I don't remember who the guy was at this point, but I remember he dropped a name like, yeah, I'm connected to this person and that person. And when I did the audition, they asked us to sign a release for the audition. And something in my gut was telling me, like, why a release for an audition? It doesn't make sense. But because I heard the name, I was like, okay, I signed it. Now, honestly, they probably have never done anything with the footage. It was an audition, wasn't like I was doing anything that I'd be ashamed of or anything like that. But the reality is, if this guy wanted to take that footage and make it into a documentary on bad auditions, good auditions, or whatever, he could do that, and I would never get paid for it because I signed the release. And so under navigating those things early in my career, that was very difficult too, because I did reach a point where I started walking away from auditions based on either what they felt I needed to sign. Because, by the way, if there's anyone watching this, you should never have to sign a release for an audition. It's an audition. But I was finding that with some of the independent projects that I was going out for. And I love indie projects. I mean, it's how I got my first reel. So I wanted to work these projects. I still work independent projects, but really being able to navigate what I should and shouldn't sign, what I should and shouldn't do, and being extremely comfortable saying, deuces, this probably isn't a good fit for me.
And so when you show up on set and they tell you, this is what we need you to sign to audition, you just tell them, no, thank you, and just leave.
Well, so you just said show up on set. So it's two kind of different processes. If I'm on set, I've already been hired. So that's a different set of signing things, and those things are, um, thankfully, they are guarded and managed, if you will, by the union. I'm in the union, but showing up to an audition, I should not have to sign anything. Unless it's getting my parking validated. But otherwise, I shouldn't have to sign a release on footage for an audition, because the purpose of an audition is to find out whether or not you're a good fit for the job. So there shouldn't be anything to sign. But to answer your question though, I have gone to auditions and I have walked away if I didn't feel right. And that was kind of difficult to navigate in the beginning. But again, I've never been in an audition situation where, no matter whether I was asked to sign something or not, where I did something where I felt uncomfortable or ashamed, or maybe I shouldn't have my top off for this audition. I have never, thank God, I've never encountered that, but I've never found myself in that situation either.
Definitely have to pray before you accept a job, because all money is not good money, and you want to be in the right atmosphere and around the right people. And but
Hmm.
I get it. I get it. And you're definitely helping me as well as other people. So thank you again.
Oh, you're
So,
welcome.
so where can we purchase your book, the new book?
You can go to megastarleadership.com. Actually, I'm going to be doing moving it over to Amazon really soon as well. But for right now, you can go to Megastar Student Leadership, and we are preparing for the fall season for both high school and college students getting ready to go back to classes. So I am doing bulk sales. Like if an organization wants to buy, 20, 30, or 100 books for their students, or even want me to come in to speak to those students, they can still go to Megastar Student Leadership, and we can work on putting together a bulk order, or talk about bringing me in to speak.
Okay. And then you do coaching too, right? So the private coaching, right?
I do. So while I'm an actress and I love what I do as an actress, I really started running my mouth first as a speaker and got my start in the church. I don't remember, families, they have the good stories, especially cousins. And so my cousins, or some of my older cousins, they always share the story of me going up to the front of the church for saying my Easter speech. I was 3 years old. Apparently, I took the mic and like I was so loud that because my mom had said, speak loudly so everyone can hear you. So I took that literally and apparently spoke very loud and so loud that the whole church cracked up. And apparently, I thought that was good. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna keep doing this. And so by the time I got to elementary school, I was competing in public speaking contests, like representing my school. I did that in junior high, studied speech in college. So speaking is really how I got involved with acting. But yes, I do coach people who are looking to speak, whether those are actors, whether those are authors who want to go out and speak and talk about their books, or even executives who may want to fine tune their public speaking skills.
Okay. And so how do they reach you? Do they go on your website, send you an
Yes,
email
you
to
can go
that?
to speakandreach.com. Again, that's speakandreach.com.
Thank you. And for your other books that you have, can they purchase those on there as well?
Ye I feel like I'm giving out a lot of websites. Um, but all of my books can be purchased on the homepage of angelaray.com. But I was just like, gosh, I got to give out another website. But angelaray.com, I do believe on the homepage, all of my books are listed there. And so it might take you to Amazon, it might take you to Megastar Student Leadership, but all the books are on the homepage at angelaray.com.
We want them to go to angelaray.com and purchase.
Absolutely. That works. That works.
Okay. And before we close, I know we want them to purchase the book, but is there any gems that you would like to drop on us before we close?
Any gems? Let's see. Since I talked about poetry being my first love and uh, me understanding the power of the tongue, that both death and life is in the power of the tongue, I'm just do a little bit of an affirmation poem that I wrote a few years ago called Born to Shine. And I just want to remind everyone who's watching that you are indeed born to shine. I was born to shine. I am a child of the divine. I stand in my power, prepared for my purpose, and poised to pursue the path chosen for me. That's just a little something, something, just a little bit of born to shine.
I like it. I like it. That's good. Okay, so thank you again for coming on to the show. We wish you blessings on top of blessings. I know that we will see you in other projects, some amazing projects, because I'm gonna be looking and watching and running to the theaters to see everything that comes out with
Well,
Angela
thank
Ray's
you.
name on it.
Appreciate
Okay.
that.
And for our audience, remember it's only pain until you start your healing process and work on your purpose. I will see you next Monday.